I'm calling to order the regular board meeting of the Cordova Recreation and Park District. The time is 6:30 p.m. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This evening, I'd like to invite up Jill Nuns, our new Recreation Superintendent, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to also introduce Jill as our new Recreation Superintendent. She is in her 4th week now. And in the Grapevine, there was a nice article that came out. So I'm just going to read off just some of her background, which is really impressive. She brings to the district more than 20 years of public service and recreation experiences. She served as the Recreation Division Manager for the City of Sacramento, as well as over 10 years as a Recreation Supervisor for Highlands Ranch Metro District in Colorado. She has also served on the Foothill Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors for 6 years in Colorado. Is a certified Parks and Recreation professional awarded through the NRPA, the National Recreation and Parks Association. She was awarded several merits of honor for her committed work in public service and is an advocate for parks and recreation. In addition to the recreation and aquatics programming, she brings extensive experience in staff leadership, financial management, and community engagement. We're really excited to have Jill join our team. And with that, if she'd like to come up and just say a brief hello and add anything that I have maybe left out.
Nope, I think you covered it all. So thanks for having me aboard. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be a part of this amazing team. Everybody's been so wonderful so far. I look forward to working with all of you. I said so far. I did say so far. But I look forward to working with all of you, so thank you so much.
Well, we really welcome you, and we're glad to see, the level rising in the approach to recreation and communication, so we appreciate it.
And I wanted to just say, Jill, we met at Federspiel Pathway, and I was like, that was the first time we met. You had just started, and again, like I said to you when I saw you today, you're still here. We didn't scare you away. No, the challenge is there. Welcome.
Okay, if we can have a roll call, please.
Before I call the roll, I would just like to welcome to the dais Pam Wickens. She works over at the Hagen Community Center, and she will be clerking the board meeting in October. So just wanted to welcome her and thank you for being here, Pam. Director Sloan? Here. Director Danzel?
Here.
Secretary Yearwood?
Here.
Vice Chair Reyes?
Here.
And Chair Lineback?
Here. At this time, we move on to board disclosures on action items. Hearing none, we are going to move on to item B, comments by the public on non-agenda items.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Members of the public may address the board on district topics not listed on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. It is a violation of state law for the board to discuss or take action on non-agenda items. Board members may only briefly ask clarifying questions or refer the matter to staff. We have 1 public comment submitted, but before we get to that, I would like to introduce Park Services Superintendent Jerry Dobbs with a special award that the district received.
Ooh.
So we're going to do a very big hurrah. We, our Park Services staff went to the CPRS, California Parks and Recreation Expo. At the expo, there is a big competition with a lot of Park Services staff that perform the duties associated with Park Services in a rodeo. Wow. And guess who brought home the trophy this year? So with that, our Park Services staff were elated about the fact that Cordova was able to steal this trophy from Chico, literally. And so with that, I wanted to honor Jerry with this award and take a picture for the Grapevine. in order for us to promote this win, as well as CPRS District 2, which is our district leadership, as well as Cordova's win. So with that, if I could ask the board to come down and we'll give this to Jerry and take a picture.
Jerry, what did you have to do to get this? Ride?
Basically, our staff, the full-time staff, participated. Adolfo Salas participated in using a blower to blow a ball between obstacle cones, and he was the fastest. And we had somebody picking up trash all over the ground, again, very fast. Nicholas Fonseca used a ride mower, the zero-turn radius sticks, and he did extremely well. In fact, everybody that participated in all the events, including a pop-up tent installation, they added up the time. We were 30 seconds faster than anybody else there. Good job. It's awesome.
So with that, we'd like to give this to Jerry.
Oh, yeah. Just a little more like this. Yeah.
And then let's have. Okay. So with that, we can hold it up, and we will have a nice little write-up in the grapevine about this.
You come up this way so I can make sure that this isn't in front of your face.
Oh, sure. That's okay though. You're good.
All right. All right, we're going to do a couple of them. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Jerry.
That's awesome. What beautiful display. They work hard.
They work hard.
We're gonna actually get a. They're gonna recycle this one.
It's 2006.
Yeah.
Good job.
We like to celebrate.
Yes.
Just also as a note, the expo is something that happens every year, and I believe this past year was the largest attendance they've had in the last several years. And to note, Jerry Fox, who used to do a lot of work for us here, was the one who actually brought this program and event to this region. So I just wanted to recognize Jerry for that as well. It's a tradition that has been upheld for numerous years. So that's just a nice kind of callback to Jerry.
Well, I think it's fun too because it's fun and it's a game, but it also demonstrates the skills of the staff. So they have to know what they're doing to come in first place to get that award. So, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can do it over here.
But if I could say just one thing, I told the guys when they get there, if they win, do the cheer, and they did.
So we have a public comment?
We do. We have one public comment I'd like to read into the record. It's from Joseph Robarts. He says, Board of Directors, hello. I wanted to say this in person, but family is coming over for dinner today. After mentioning the graffiti at the last board meeting, it occurred to me that it might have been taken as critical of the district's maintenance of parks. I didn't mean it that way. I was just already planning on going to the meeting, so it seemed convenient to bring it up there. Maybe that wasn't the most appropriate way to report it. In any case, the graffiti has been removed, and it's possible that it had already been removed a little before last month's meeting. Thank you for keeping the parks so nice.
Very good, thank you. And we thank Joseph for the clarification. We're going to move on to our consent calendar now.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Consent calendar items are considered administratively routine and will be acted upon in one motion unless separate action on a specific item is necessary. The chairperson will consider any requests for discussion on the items prior to approval of the consent calendar. We do have 3 items listed on the calendar this evening, but we are going to pull item C3. Staff would like to make updates to the report and bring it back at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve items C1 and C2 of the consent calendar?
Yes, I will move that we approve consent calendar items C1 and C2.
Thank you,
As
Vice Chair
presented.
Reyes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Yearwood. Would anyone like to make any brief comments or have any questions about those two items before we vote? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Sloan? Aye. Director Danzel?
Aye.
Secretary Yearwood?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reyes?
Aye.
And Chair Lineback?
Aye. We're going to move on to item D now, presentations.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Item D1 is a presentation by the Cordova Community Council on the 2017 4th of July celebration. This is an informative presentation only, no action to be taken by the Board of Directors. And I would like to invite Shelley Blanchard to the podium.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back. As you know, I return here every year as part of our contract with you for this fabulous signature event in our area. So really glad to be here, and I have detailed a lot of stuff in a written report, but I wanted to pull out a few things just to highlight for you because it isn't always obvious. The first question people usually say on the 5th of July is, how many people were there? And I just wanted to let you know that we believe we had 24,000 people at the 4th of July this year, and that's arrived this way. We actually sold $18,002 tickets at the gates. We believe there's 1,000 volunteers, exhibitors, sponsors, on and on and on, who are actually in the park with us producing the event. And then there's another 5,000 tickets that are distributed to people in the run, needy families in the community, families through the Folsom Cordova Community Partnership, families that need tickets through the schools, all the children who are at the 4th of July who are age 5 and under, who we don't charge, but there's a million of those little rugrats there. So we estimate that that's about 5,000. Another 5,000 people over the 2 days in the park. So if you add that up, even poor math students like me, that comes to about 24,000. And actually that makes a lot of sense to us because we've kind of leveled off and are going up at a very gradual rate every year now from 20,000 that occurred about 5 or 6 years ago. So we're really happy with that. Jerry Dobbs keeps telling us, that we've maxed the capacity of the park, and we totally agree with him. And we just sometimes lay awake at night trying to think about what we're going to do on a go-forward basis as more and more people decide to come down to the Rancho Cordova 4th of July. I'm switching to the back page because the devil always appears in the numbers, and they always look so devastating, and I want to explain some of these numbers to you. This is exactly what we expected would happen at the 4th of July, so to us this is a thing of beauty. When you see under the income categories, the ticket sales, that's really the entry admission tickets I just told you about and parking fees that are collected. The on-site sales are generally the beer sales and the carnival sales. Those are the two big ticket items there. Sponsorships, these are people who specifically wanted to sponsor the 4th of July event, about $35,000 there. Under the some highlights under the expense side, in the end, most of our money is spent on entertainment, and the big chunk of that money in that category is for 2 fabulous fireworks shows that happen at the 4th of July. Fireworks are a big ticket item for us. Fundraising, that's how much beer we buy. We get money back for that as we sell it, but it's not actually a fundraising. We don't make a lot of money on beer, but we do sell a fair amount of it. On the logistics side, that is something that we struggle with all the time. That is, we have to light your park. It takes about 52 light towers to do that. That's a lot of equipment and a lot of fuel to keep the lights on. That is one area that we have spent more and more money on every year because we want it to be perfect. And we don't want to take any chances that someone tripped because it was dark. And it seems like the more Brian Danzel helps us with this, the more light towers we put out there, the more dark spots we find, and we do a little bit more next year. But I have to compliment Brian and a couple of our volunteers. If you can believe this, all those 46 light towers go into place, and then they go out after dark, and it's the latest time of the year for it to get dark. So they're out between midnight and 5 a.m. pointing each and every one of those light bulbs, so that when you get there on the 4th of July, it's as close to perfect as we can get. And if those trees would stop growing and changing every year, we'd actually have a plan, but you really cannot do that. Every year it's different. Can you imagine? So thank you. Brian does a lot of that work for us and with us. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. So it looks like at the bottom of the list, we always have a big number there, and that looks like what we lost. And it actually isn't. It's what the Cordova Community Council invests in this event from other non-specified or directed contributions we get throughout the year, the big one from the city of Rancho Cordova. So we expect this number to be down here. It is, we love it when it's less, which it rarely is. This is actually a really good looking number for us. It's usually closer to 75,000. And we really do attribute that to, we had such a great turnout this year, and in all of our income categories, we were actually up a couple $1,000 for a total of about $15,000 to good this year. So that would explain that. Just on a personal note, I mean, Jerry and Brian and Horacio and your staff were fabulous. And we really, really enjoyed working with them. They were totally responsive. We always learn a few things about Hagan Park, and we like to think we always teach a few things about Hagan Park that we know that that we like to share. One of the great safety improvements this year, this was something the Rancho Cordova Police Department had asked us to do, and that is to figure out how to divide water trucks from pedestrians. As you know, I've reported this before, we spend an awful lot of effort watering down the American River Parkway so that it never catches on fire from a fireworks show. And with your help, we got an extra little, I think you call them wharf, fire hydrants installed right on the parkway so that you get to use it and we get to use it, and we never have to have that dangerous situation where water trucks and pedestrians are crossing. So thank you for that. That was a huge step forward, and I must say the Rancho Cordova Police Department was absolutely gobsmacked that we managed to get that done. So thanks for dazzling. As we look forward to the 4th of July, we're already planning it, and I'm proud to announce tonight that we'll be adding a really great event next year to the 4th of July, and that will be the Maintenance Department Rodeo. Because you know me, if I hear something sounds a little bit like fun, we got to add that to the lineup. But you know, think about that. That could be, we could get all the guys in town with their riding lawnmowers and have some races and stuff. I mean, it could be truly, truly fun. So a spark was ignited here tonight. At any rate, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we've really mastered this monster. That doesn't mean that every year something new happens, and we are expecting a big one next year when the Folsom Cordova School District is planning to be working on the Mills field where the track is, and we probably will not have that available for parking. That gobbles up about 1,200 cars, so we have to figure out how to do that. But every year there's a new challenge, and it's what keeps life interesting. So we'll figure that one out as well. But thanks again for all the support, and I know some of you were able to attend, and I saw Inez from a distance, I think, and really loved having you there. So any questions I can answer on this huge undertaking?
A quick comment here is your report was very interesting because we can see exactly what improvements were made. I like the fact that you've been able to do all that, because then next year it's like, okay, from here, as you know, Shelley, the community council puts on fabulous
Thank you.
events, and it's year after year after year. And I know that the partnerships that you bring together, and even putting the 4th of July to a point that it becomes one of the best in the area, and people come from all over and talk about it and do this. So it is nice that we were able to help make it easier, both on our participants and the people that came, visitors, and also on the staff. And I think it sounds like there was a lot of joy in making it happen this year than it was in some other years.
Oh,
So
yeah, I think.
this is great. It just sounds better every time.
It's a little bit less exciting than the days of the Wild Wild West, I will admit, right? Some people kind of miss that, but I do think that we've kind of figured it out and really have benefited from very professional guidance and assistance from you guys down in Hagen Park, so thanks.
It's a great partnership, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is. I was actually able to attend the fireworks for the first time. Yeah, this past year. It was fabulous.
Well, I hope you liked it. I should tell you that we did take a very, in Rancho Cordova, we're trying to establish ourselves as a more artful place. And, of course, my usual style of fireworks is buy as many as we can possibly afford and just shoot them up and just blow your mind, right? I love that kind of fireworks show. But this year we really worked with our provider and said, we want it to be artistic, and we want it to be memorable in that way. And I really feel like this new company we worked with did a fantastic job of that. So I hope you enjoyed the show.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was really. I'll mimic Inez's word, and it was fabulous.
Good.
Yeah, great.
Well,
great
that's
event.
what we want. We want to be fabulous, right? So off we go.
I will say, talking about that fireworks show is like, it was like a widescreen effect
Yeah.
this time rather than here.
Only
It
in
went
one
all the way out to here. It's like, wow, you needed like more peripheral vision to see it. It just encompassed the whole sky, which I thought was fantastic. Although I couldn't get my lens that big, so
You have to drive up to Folsom
I
to
kept
get it all
stepping
in.
back, and I ended up in the lake.
Well, for the first time, we have heard anecdotal reports that not only is Hagen Park full of this 24,000 people, but that right across the river in the park right there, that it is packed. And so we actually had someone go over, check it out, and verify that. And then they took the fireworks show. They filmed it from that side of the river.
Oh, that's
And it looks cool. Not as cool as being in, Hagen Park,
I
though.
look forward to next year is the 15th anniversary of the city, right?
Correct?
And the 60th anniversary of the park
Yes.
district, so,
And the 100th birthday of Mather.
There
Wow.
you go.
So
Fireworks.
as part of the anniversary of
That'll be great.
100 years of Mather, the thing that really built our town, right? We have a lot of things planned, and the fireworks show is part of it to pay tribute to that great institution.
hey, why don't you share a little bit at the Arts Council meeting? One of the art shows for next year
Right.
is going to be art, like the park, It's
Yes.
gonna,
Our planning group for the arts that does the city hall shows, we were noting to them that it's really a year of milestones next year, so all of the ones we just mentioned. So each one of the city hall shows is going to focus on one of those, and one of them did we name it In the Park, or
The Park,
A
right.
Day in the Park, or something like that? So one of our art shows will be all about
In the park.
the park,
That's wonderful.
heading to the park. So yeah, that'll be
Exciting.
fun. Okay, well, with that, I guess,
Yearwood, did you have a
Oh,
comment
I'm
you'd like to
sorry,
make,
Mr.
Director Yearwood?
I was only modestly impressed with the fireworks show, but the getting out of there was phenomenal this year. The managing of the parking and getting people out of there is amazing, and that was the best fireworks show I've ever seen. So
Thank you.
I'm sure word of mouth, you'll definitely
Much
gonna have to
more.
find a couple more corners to tuck people into, because that was a very impressive show. Just like Director Sloan said, I couldn't get my camera wide enough to get it all. So.
Well, let me just ask you, since, we're just talking here.
Nothing's
So
on the record here.
we're ready to do just a few very short fireworks show at our Christmas tree lighting, and I was challenging the fireworks company today to, what would an all-white show that's about snow look
Wow.
like? Wouldn't that be, what do you think? I think that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
Just
Just all white.
Maybe they
And
can shoot
all these
something off.
California
Sparkling,
kids, they'll
sparkling,
think that's
sparkling.
really, that is really snow, you know?
Maybe they can shoot something off the tower. How about that?
So anyway, I
got
was
the Santa.
I was enjoying working. Jill was at our Christmas planning meeting today, and so we're off and running for one thing's over, we're on to the next, right? So thanks for all the help. We had a great time at the 4th of July. Hope you did too.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We are going to now move on to E, committee reports.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Item E1 is for our standing committee, the Budget and Finance, on September 14th.
Would you like to start?
Yes, I would like to start. We met with staff, and we've been meeting with staff on our financial report. But I'm going to leave that to Chair Lineback to go to talk about some specificity there. One of the things that I was really thrilled with, and I'm hoping directors have noticed, is a contingency report. That was something we had requested. Of course, you have the contingency amount, and it's not supposed to be showing too many draws on it, but it's really nice to have it there. We discussed 4 items. I'll take care of talking about the first 2, which is one was the signature authority limits. We had discussed with staff in preparation for our financial policy. What do you call this? Meeting, a financial policy meeting, which will be early October. We were discussing the different limits and how we can bring it up to date so that we can support and equip staff with the ability to make things happen quicker than it takes. So we're going to be bringing that to you when we have it all figured out. The other thing is we have the draft financial audit process. It was exciting to hear that, we got our audit late in this year. And we had said we needed, the consultant to make sure that he brings it to us early. And so what we're going to do is, it looks exciting. They've finished their first field work. And so hopefully we're going to be meeting in November to be able to look at a draft audit report, and then we're looking towards hopefully early in the year, maybe mid-January or so, that we would have our auditor come forward and answer any questions, or at least be able to address. Audit report so far, field work and all that, findings were not minimal, quick adjustments, nothing significant. So that was good.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Reyes. We also, yes, an update on the armored car service. The staff did, put out for some bids, and got a very nice bid for armored car service. It is relatively inexpensive. Is it, Matt? The number is what?
Yeah, it equates to about $24 per trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we have 5,
sites.
is it 3 sites where we pick up cash?
We're going to utilize 5 sites.
5 sites, yeah. And so it's very secure. It enables staff not to have to carry cash, from their sites to the banks or to the central office. It also lends a note of seriousness about cash handling, that it's important, and it's worth an armored car service, which means it's worth your time and effort to make it right and secure too. So we really think, since staff don't have to take the time to make those cash runs themselves, there's a cost savings, or at least a labor savings in that, so it seems well worth the money to us. So we thought I think we do have numbers in here, in case you were wondering. So total of an annual budget of $6,200 which is not a lot of money. Yeah. And then the monthly board report, you saw some of the changes that Matt proposed, which we thought were really nice. It's simplified. There's going to be a couple of graphs added to look at revenues and expenses year-to-date, just to have a more visual look at it. We asked for, and we got in a very short period of time, because this Finance Committee meeting was just, what was it, late last week, less than a week ago, that we also get a comparison from where we were at this point last year. So they were able to add that and put it in the board packet for this month. And I think that's it.
That's it.
Unless I missed something important. Okay, let's move on to public hearings, of which I see none. So we'll move even further along and go to G, the regular calendar.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Item G1 is to authorize the district administrator to execute a short-term general maintenance agreement with Preceda Landscaping Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $84,084 to maintain the landscape corridors in the Cordova Recreation and Park District. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Jerry Dobbs.
Okay, we've been using Preceda now for the past 3 years to help maintain the streetscapes at VOZ, or Villages of Zinfandel, and Anatolia area. They've helped us out tremendously, not only in the landscape maintenance aspect of it, but also in the irrigation system repair. In case you may not be aware, right now we're down to an interim irrigation supervisor and one full-time other employee, plus a couple of helpers to help maintain all the irrigation systems throughout the district. So to have Preceda help us out in maintaining the irrigation system in the Villages of Zinfandel, Anatolia has been a godsend. We've been able to determine quite a few lines that have been broken, and they have been repaired, so we can get the water to the plants to keep them alive. The other thing we've done over the past 3 years is that we've had to add to the contract, because we've added more responsibilities for us to maintain, such as the trail right behind Cobblestone Park, bike trail. We have that area now we have to maintain. We have the Hillside Park, which is an area by a retention pond. We have to make sure that that area is mowed down at least once a year in conjunction with the city. And we have several other areas like that throughout VOZ, as well as in Villages in the Anatolia area, that we have to maintain in coordination with the city, so that we create these nice fire breaks, particularly in the summertime. And I'll be quite honest, that wasn't cheap. That's something that we're mandated to do, and we work hand in hand with the city to make sure that that work is getting done. So at this time, I would like to answer any questions you may have pertaining to this extension. You have to forgive me here. I'm not used to wearing a tie. The button is up a little close to my throat here, so I'm not used to that, so forgive me.
Would you like a bottle?
Sometimes that's what I need, is a swig of something.
I have a comment or a clarification here.
Yes, ma'am.
I was reading this, Jerry, and I know there's a second part to it that we're supposed to be moving on to. But from what I understand here, this is you are asking us to approve a short-term contract
Yes, ma'am.
that could go up to 14 weeks, right?
It could go, no, it would not.
No
it would
more
definitely
than.
end by December 31st.
Okay.
But it's at our discretion, depending upon how the weather is, if we need them there to work out in the field. For instance, like the week of Christmas, I'm looking at probably not, or maybe even Thanksgiving, when we don't have much activity going on. That's up to our discretion at that point.
Okay, so, and the reason why is we're also anticipating that by January, we would have a contractor.
Have a new contract, yes, ma'am.
From the RFP process.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I wanted to check. Thank you.
So the rates are based on the prior contract, but essentially, it's not a flat rate contract, right? So the rates are based, it's intended to be billed to us as they do the work.
As they do the work, yes, ma'am. We get reports on a monthly basis, what activities they have been doing. I have Jim Morales, who's our Park Services Supervisor too. He monitors the activity. He works with them on a weekly basis. The supervisor that they have on hand in those areas assigns work. If there's a particular job that needs to get done, he makes sure that they're able to do it. They do not do a lot of the chemical treatments or some of the repairs unless we give them full authorization. Typically, what they're supposed to do is the basic landscape maintenance, mowing the grass, edging the sidewalks, picking up trash, raking the leaves, taking care of any broken branches at this point. Anything above and beyond that, they consult with us and we monitor their work. And the reason why we wanted to make sure that we had a monthly schedule from them of activities to make sure that we're being charged fairly for the services that are being rendered. That's why we were insistent upon the schedule of different types of tasks that they would be doing and the hourly rates that they would be charging for it.
Any other questions or comments?
And you're probably wondering why we have two things here dealing with a landscape maintenance contract. There was some confusion last fall with our prior district administrator who said he would handle that issue dealing with the contract. And we went back and forth. To be honest, I had my dates changed in my own personal mind. And since then, I've corrected that issue. Is that now Laura Foley, you'll see her name on top of the reports. She is helping me by reminding me when these reports have to be done. I'm typically used to getting them done a month ahead of time, but due to the type of format that we have here to make sure everything's legal and proper, we need at least 3-month leeway to make sure the work is getting done. And I'm thankful for Laura taking on this responsibility. She's actually helped Danielle, helped Laura Taylor, Christina James, and myself by taking on this task of writing and making sure everything's formatted correctly. She's very detail-oriented, and I'm looking forward to working with her more on some more of these type of contracts.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
And so this maintenance contract for 14 weeks, it's timed so that all the leaves that drop from the trees are going to be picked up, right?
With the exception with the oak trees, if you're familiar with oak trees, they don't drop all their leaves by the time they December.
Is that all we have out there is oak?
We have oaks, we have plums, we have zolkovas. You name it, we got it. But the oaks will be the last to drop their leaves. I can't guarantee they'll drop their leaves by the time they end of the short-term contract.
Well, that just means that there might be piles of leaves that'll be getting all wet and causing, No?
We're going to have a new contract by then.
Oh, we'll have a new contract by then, okay.
We should, yes.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
No problem.
Director Lineback, I will go ahead and move that the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to execute the short-term general maintenance agreement not to exceed 14 weeks with Proceda Landscaping Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $84,084 for the maintenance of landscape corridors throughout the district.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reyes.
Second.
Thank you, Director Danzel. Roll call, please.
Director Sloan? Aye. Director Danzel?
Aye.
Secretary Yearwood?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reyes?
Aye.
And Chair Lineback?
Aye. Okay, we will now move on to item G2.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Item G2 is to authorize the district administrator to release a request for proposals, RFP, for maintenance of landscape corridors in the Cordova Recreation and Park District. And again, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Dobbs.
Okay, this is, again, very similar scope of type of responsibilities that we're asking a landscape maintenance contractor to do. We are looking for a longer-term basis. You probably have noticed that. I've spoken to some of our counterparts in other districts. Elk Grove, for instance, they do have a 5-year type of contract at this point where it's subjected each year to review, and they can be extended for year after year after year. Spoke with Mission Oaks today, and they have a 4-year contract with a landscape contractor. And speaking in my field of business here, I know quite well some of the limitations you have when you're given just a couple of years to go ahead and do work, especially if you have heavy investment in equipment. If you go ahead and purchase one of the riding mowers like you use for the golf course, you're looking at a $35,000 investment. And so what you're looking at is a rate of return. Is it worth the bidding on this project or not? You might get it after 2 years, you might not. You might get it after 3 years, but you still have a piece of equipment that you still have to pay on. And it's more than just one piece of equipment. Usually it's trucks, trailers, as well as staff. So, but the other thing we put a safeguard in this contract is that it'd be subject to annual review in terms of performance. If they're not up to snuff, basically we would go ahead and say we'd have to get another contractor in place. One of the concerns I had was when we put this out on bid the last time, Laura, I want to thank Laura Taylor for helping me. That was our very first project we worked on together, if I remember right. And I've been here a lot longer than she has. I've been here a week longer than she has, okay? So I'm a little bit more experienced at this than she is. But what we found out is that when we got the bids to come in, we had people going out on tours, seeing the place, and we had only 3 companies interested. And actually 2 of those 3 submitted complete bids. The third one did not. We waited till the very last minute to see the bids. What we truly want are competitive bids here for this type of service. And thinking that with what other park districts are doing, and through my own personal experience in dealing with landscape maintenance, thought it'd be a way to go to use a 5-year clause at this point. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have concerning that at this point. But that's the reasoning behind the why it's in there at this point.
The prior 3-year contract, or I assume you put out an RFP for a 3-year contract. Did it come with extensions? Because this one is 5 years with 2 additional year extensions possible.
Possible, yes.
Yeah, I understand that. But did the last one come with possible extensions beyond the 3 years, or it was just a straight up 3-year contract?
It started out as just a 1-year contract with the extension for 1 more year, and then another for the 3rd year. We could have another extension, then it stopped.
I see. Yeah.
It's a very different. It was very short term for landscape maintenance.
Yeah, that's very short term. When you were talking, it made me. I guess I kind of assumed that they used our equipment because we have a lot of equipment, but they use their own equipment.
They use their own equipment, definitely so. The part of that's a liability situation. They have their own insurances and so forth, and I would rather go ahead for them if they have an injured person, take care of that through their insurance companies, through their staff and so forth. And we take care of our own.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's wise. And then, what is it? It just left my head. Never mind.
Oh, that's quite all right. If you come up with a question, I'll be glad to answer it sometime.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Quite welcome.
I like that mandatory pre-bid walkthrough. I think that's really important.
I've been through a situation years ago when we had a mowing contract for the Virginia Tech University. It's a little college down there in Southwest Virginia. And what happened, we had a bid process where people were to show up and see what it was that we wanted to have mowed. One contractor did not show, and he got the bid. He undercut everybody else by 50%. But he never did see the entire scope of the project. I had to fire him within a month because he would not show up. Sure. He could not keep up with the job. He did not realize the scope of the job. And when I calculated how much he actually bid, I said, I can't even afford gas for my own personal mower for what you're charging per acre out here at this point, so.
Yep.
So this is the reason why it's mandatory to have that pre-bid. Everybody's on the same page, and everybody can ask, if somebody asks a question, everybody here's the same answer.
That's right. That's good. Yeah, that was actually a little bit related to the thought that I had previously forgotten, which is, so then you would anticipate more qualified bids with a longer term offered in the RFP?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. There's quite a few landscape maintenance outfits in this whole Sacramento area. And I thought it was really a shame that we only had 2 that actually filled out the paperwork. And one had an interest but did not do that. I really want to have a choice at this point, yes.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to release a request for proposals, that's an RFP, for maintenance of landscape corridors in the Cordova Recreation and Park District.
Thank you, Director Sloan.
I'll second.
Thank you, Secretary Yearwood. Roll call, please.
Director Sloan? Director Danzel?
Aye.
Secretary Yearwood?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reyes?
Aye.
And Chair Lineback?
Aye. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to item H, Board of Directors items. Item H1, Board Member Reports. So I see there are no trainings, so we will go on to item H1B, Board Member Community Activities and Meetings Report. Shall we start at the end of the dais with Director Sloan?
Okay. Let me start off with one that's not listed. On August 19th, I attended the soccer jamboree at Stone Creek Park. And there was 1,000+ people out there, a lot of them kids and with their parents, maybe more than 1,000. And the park looked really nice. There was a little issue of some, I guess, sprinklers going on beforehand, and so there was some areas that needed to be cornered off so the kids didn't get hurt in the area. But I did call Mr. Larkin, and he sent Horacio over there, and they made sure it wasn't a leak, which was important. But that was taken care of. It was in really good shape, though, otherwise than that. There was, there's certain areas for that whole park is designed for sort of like, it's got hills and stuff for runoff, and so water kind of collects in certain areas. On August 24th, I was at Dave Roberts Park at 8:30 in the morning, and I witnessed a Black Ops helicopter coming in, landing with 3,500 tickets to the air show, and a bunch of screaming children, and from middle school to elementary school age, and it was a very, very nice. The park looked beautiful. Like I say, our parks always look so beautiful, and I know that people appreciate them especially when events like this happen in them. There was a lot of TV coverage out there, and like Got the Good Day Sacramento was out there, and as were other directors and administrative staff. So that was a nice event. I took some great photographs too, and I really like taking shots I've never taken before. On August 30th, I attended the pathway dedication over there at Federsville Park. And once again, we have a beautiful park. I do wish we could do something with that building, whether make it into a clubhouse or something, like a second hideaway or something. Or I like, it's just sitting there doing nothing.
I can give you an update on that. So the condition of that building, if you were to open up inside, you would run screaming with your hair on fire. The condition is in ill repair. It's in ill repair. I mean, it would cost us more to renovate that and use it than it would be just to knock it down. That community is very particular about their concerns with that building, as it is an obstruction of sight lines for the kids going to school there. It's also an attraction to unsavory activity out there that's been reported at numerous times. So the goal and the direction that we're going in is to knock the building down and extend the park when we get the finances available to do so, and then possibly install a restroom because it is considered a community park.
Oh, it is, that's community park.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know how the public's gonna want restrooms there. That might be a battle. Yeah. How about
It's probably but not a good investment for us to renovate it. It is really quite dilapidated.
How about another parkour out there? Be kind of good. Exercise equipment. No? Like we have at Sun River? No? That might attract, I don't know. All right, well, let's move on to, my next one would be on September 7th, I attended the Rosemont Community Association. And took some pretty good notes because they're going to have they've already been talking to the district, and on Friday, October 6th, where they usually have their food trucks, they've changed the name to Oktoberfest, and they're going to have a beer garden for the first time. And I guess there's Hoppy Brewery is going to be serving. It's all part of the food truck company organizes that, so they're going to have it all chained off or secluded. So at the area, and that's going to be interesting. It's going to be from 5 to 8. They're going to have live music, and they did mention they're looking to have a jumping house, and they weren't sure about the insurance or even whether they're going to have one or not, because I don't know if there's electricity out there they could use, or they need a generator to do it. So I think they'll probably approach the district and ask them.
Yeah, typically, we'll have them provide a generator, depending on where they want to have it. If there is a request for electricity, they go through a process of applying for that, and they have actually started working with us on the approval to do the alcohol for that particular event. So if you get notice that they have a need other than what they've applied for, you can just direct them towards me, and I can help them with that.
Okay. Also, 10% of the proceeds from the beer garden go to Friends of Cordova. I want to let you guys know that, which was nice of them. They also mentioned that at Rosswood Park, there was talks about installation of some, they already have the signs that were park watch signs, and I guess we're going to be working with them to install them, or whether they've been installed or not. I think we're waiting for a light fixture to go up or something. That's what I heard last, so I think we're waiting for SMUD to put those in first before we put signs up. Is that?
They're requesting a light go into one of the parks there, but it's a little bit more complicated than just a simple request like that. So we obviously need to be strategic in doing it. If it impacts the neighbor adjacent to that installation, we have to do a little community outreach. So it's not as simple as just saying, let's make this happen. I wish it was, but unfortunately it's not. But the signage is already created. We've worked with Horatio and Terry to get the wording, and we'll be installing once those signs are produced.
Great, great. And just a little bit of a reminder, I think you already know about the Brecca potluck is on the 24th, this Sunday. And I want to let you guys know that on October 13th, or Friday the 13th, is the Rosemont Homecoming Parade, community parade out there on Kiefer Boulevard. So might be, is that the same? Yeah, that's right. And the next day is the Hall of Fame. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sloan. Director Denzel.
I only have a couple things on my sheet. I had on 8/29 my LAFCO Special Districts Advisory Committee meeting. Myself and another member of that committee showed up at the County Board of Supervisors building and waited and waited and waited and waited. Unfortunately, our our chair, our assistant chair, and our assistant chair all had things to do, and the word didn't get out to all the members of that committee that the meeting had been canceled, because 2 hours before the meeting, we got an email from Don Lockhart at LAFCO saying, you guys, I won't be there tonight, I had a water pipe break, but you guys have the room till 9 o'clock. Well, that was 2 hours before the meeting, and then got nothing after that. And then afterwards, a couple days later, we got emails from Don Lockhart saying, yeah, the list didn't get printed with everybody's correct phone numbers, so it needs to be changed. And my comment back was, well, I got an email 2 hours before the meeting saying that we were having it, so why didn't I get an email saying, and the response was, well, that's your district email, we wanted to make sure you got it. And I said, my district email is on my phone, just the same as my personal, so you could send it, you could have sent it to me. And so now they've gone through and redone a phone list for all of us, because they don't want that to happen again. Our next meeting was supposed to be October 31st. The committee decided we're going to push it a day forward to October 30th because we didn't feel, those of us with small children, not that mine go out anymore, but some of the members do still have small children, wouldn't be fair to them to take Halloween away to have a political meeting if we could move the date. So we moved the date to the 30th. Other thing is the parkway improvement, or excuse me, not parkway, but pathway improvement over at Federfield Park. You know, I grew up just around the corner from there, so it was nice to see the sidewalk on that side and how much the school's changed, but the park, and it was sad to see some of the big trees go, but when you know the situation of those big trees, that they were truly dead or very close to being dead. And there was recently, I'm going to say 4 years ago, a Boy Scout Eagle project to put more trees into both sides of Federfield, so that they're slowly but surely coming along. But it was nice to actually work with the city on that project. And then last thing that's not here, it's just a kudos to the Park Services staff. I believe it was last Wednesday. My daughter's Girl Scout unit was having a celebration over in picnic area A1, and looked over, and one of the big branches at the roundabout right in front of the bathrooms, about an 8-inch round branch about 20 feet long, had come out of the tree and was just hanging. And I actually was on the phone with Horacio about personal things when I noticed it, so I just at that point called, since I was already on the phone with him about other things, talked to him, and he called one of the whoever was on call that night to come get it, and it was rather large. It was not expected to be that big, but when I showed him, took pictures of it and showed him, he was like, yeah, we'll get it out of there, because my fear at that point was it was windy that night. This is very large, and we've got people living in our parks, and that's not what we needed for that thing to, in the middle of the night, come down on somebody who could be sleeping nearby. So
Let me just couch that. We don't have people living in our parks legally. We're okay with it because we're really trying to get our handle around that.
But we're not always there. So there's we don't know who it could be. Somebody walking their dog through the park that shouldn't be. But it could have been any number of things. But yeah, it was a very large branch, and it just happened to be. It was intertwined enough with the branches from the other piece. It hadn't come down yet, and if it would have stayed, it probably both those branches probably would have come down that night. So, but no, kudos to Park Services staff for taking care of that and recognizing that problem. So,
Thank you, Director Danzel. Secretary Yearwood?
The only thing I have to report on is I attended the Pathway Improvement Project ribbon cutting at Federspiel Park. Yes, it was sad to see those trees all die and have to come out, because that was definitely my neighborhood park growing up. I remember when there was a pool there, all that good stuff. So, in fact, I think the pool is still there. They just scraped off the deck and buried the rest of it, but that's probably what they did. It was nice to see the sidewalks and all that look great, and we learned a lesson about why you don't have to put bollards back in there because of the square curb and all that. Very informative, learned something. The monument signs are a big hit. Maybe the city's going to get rid of their ugly chain link fences eventually, which they, by the way, thought we owned, but found out they do. Yeah, so it was a pretty good little event they put on there.
Can I just add about the trees? We actually have Jerry working with that neighborhood group to do a tree planting this coming fall. So it is going to be a strong community effort in collaboration with us, the Tree Foundation, that particular neighborhood, and I believe the city is also assisting with that. So some trees will go back into Federspiel Park, most likely closer to the playground, so they can get some kind of blockage with the houses as well as some shade for the playground. So that's an exciting project. We're looking forward to that in the fall, I believe.
Vice Chair Reyes.
Chair Lineback, I did attend the Pathway Improvement Project ribbon cutting ceremony, and I thought that it was really, it was a very hot day. That I remember. It was very, very hot. But it did show, I mean, our attendance directors there from the park district and the city, the partnership, hopefully was how would you say this? It was well expressed here. So we did have things happening. The community came out, even with all the heat, because there was a gelato truck there. Woo! So anyway, but there were a lot, and I saw some community leaders there, and I saw a school board member, a trustee there, and was it Chris? Yeah. Yes, it was Chris. And then we had Linda Budge was the city officer there, director. Bob was there too. Those are the two. But one of the neat things was we were able to see like Greg and Angel, which are community leaders, and we saw a diverse group of community, the residents, and they were coming, and it was really very nice. The park looked very nice. The monument sign, just as Director Yearwood said, it really made it kind of gave this newness. But that building has got to go. That building is really scary. So I said to Administrator Larkin, I go, I've got it in the works. We're already trying to see what's happening here. So anyway, so that was really good. It was a very good happening, I think.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reyes, and my report is pretty brief. I attended the Black Hawk helicopter landing on August 24th. It was a great event. The park looked great. The kids had fun. As an Air Force brat, you know, it was kind of like going back in time a little bit. I love all that, you know, air show stuff, and I was missed the other events, including the air show, because I was in Europe for a couple of weeks, so... That is my excuses, I know. That's my report. So we are now going to move on to item I, comments by staff on non-agenda items.
Thank you, Chair Lambeck. Item I1 is the monthly district-wide progress report for September, and I'll turn it over to Administrator Larkin.
All right. So just some highlights from the past month. I had the opportunity to meet with local district administrators, and the main topic being discussed in the region is homelessness. We are all working to figure out some solutions to what seems to be an expansion of homeless in our parks as well as community center areas, also affecting the schools. So there is a champion in Fulton El Camino who will be pulling together a committee of administrators to discuss regionally approaches for us to start figuring out resources to look to potentially get some funding to help us with this. We also had staff attend a meeting at the city last week related to what the city of Rancho Cordova is doing in providing resources and support in helping with the homeless situation that's going on in the city. So it is a hot topic right now. Staff has been discussing strategies. We have our park staff doing some data points and tracking of the situation so we can speak to the reality of what's going on instead of just anecdotally saying, well, we think there's this many. We're doing a little data collection at this time in hopes that we can potentially tap into some financial resources to help get these people some help and resources that are available to them in this community. So also attended that helicopter landing, which I thought was fantastic. It was a great collaboration between the district and the city. We were able to meet with the school district, the city, and ourselves in getting this together for the kids, and it was just a fantastic collaboration to make this happen. So I think that was a thing really well done. Let's see, we talked about the expo and the win, ooh-ah. And in the clerks, we are implementing a new automated agenda system, board docs, and it will begin November 2017. It's a cloud-based management system and will provide multiple opportunities for new efficiencies for the board, meeting packets, which will help in time management as well as efficiency for Danielle's work. As I said, the staff, Danielle, Jerry, and Andrea attended the Chamber Cordova Council monthly luncheon, and they gathered information about the homeless issues and challenges facing our local governments in this area. We introduced Pam earlier, and she will be Danielle next month. So thank you, Pam, for stepping up to the dais here, and we look forward to the hot seat next month. No pressure. In budget, we adopted and uploaded the final fund and department budgets into the internal accounting system and submitted to the County of Sacramento. So thank you, Matt. We talked a little bit earlier about the audit that has kicked off, and it is going well so far. And we will have a more timely audit coming forward to the board in January. We are in HR, in recruitment phase for an administrative assistant position and a park services supervisor in irrigation. Also, in HR, we're getting an efficiency with timekeeping software, and it was approved in this year's budget, and Andrea will be working with this new software to get staff trained on how to be entering their time in a more software system instead of collecting hundreds of time cards on a monthly or bi-weekly basis. So we're really looking forward to that. As I said, the park services staff are collecting data in the parks and reporting that to me so that I can start collecting that information to potentially go after funding and grant opportunities. In recreation, they have been busy. Labor Day closed out a very successful aquatic season for Lincoln Village at the White Rock Splash Park. Successes included 10,000 plus visitors at White Rock Splash Park, along with 0 mechanical closures this summer. Boy! Yeah. Good job, Park Services. I thought that was amazing, coming off the heels of last summer, which it felt like it was down every week from what I was told. So that's fantastic. They're doing a great job in making sure that it's maintained and available for the public. Also, Lincoln Village Pool had over 6,000 swimmers doing public swim and provided group lessons to over 800 swimmers and 86 private lessons. Preschool is adding a couple new components to their program this year. They are doing a staff preschool open house in addition to a parent orientation now, which is new. And the registration has sustained itself, and they're still taking registrations. They have the pre-kindergarten programs that are going on, so it does compete with our preschool programs. So once they realize that we're better than that, they will come to us. So we're just waiting for that to happen, and we should be good to go. The Hideout program does have some programmatic changes in its philosophy. We are structuring the after-school program with a calendar created by the kids, for the kids. So instead of just being a hangout, it is now going to be a structured social activity with games, brain games, crafts, tournaments. In addition to that, a dedicated time for homework, which the staff will help the kids with that. And so with that is a little bit of a shift. They're middle school students mostly, and they'll kick and scream until they actually gave us a suggestion. So we will monitor and make sure that the participation doesn't drop accordingly. So I'm very excited about that. In having a teen background, it's important for the kids to have structure, and I think that it's actually going to increase our enrollment in that program. In soccer, the youth soccer tournaments were hosted. Union Sacramento FC hosted their yearly soccer tournament at Largemont Community Park on August 19th and 20th, and there were 32 teams that joined that. There was, in the Senior Center, summer barbecue on August 23rd at the Neil Orchard Activity Center, and staff threw a Summer's Day barbecue featuring live piano music, lawn games, door prizes, and food. In park planning, huge development with the Cordova Community Pool. We, at the last meeting, sent out a request for qualifications for designers for that pool. We received 8 firms in response to that. We're very excited about that, and we will be looking at ranking the highly qualified candidates in mid-September, and interviews will be scheduled for the highest ranked firms, and an agreement will be negotiated with the successful firm and brought to your board meeting in November for approval. Development projects, we have been very busy with Jackson Township development, as well as planning staff has worked with approvals for the veranda at Stone Creek and development review comments for the Sundance development projects located southwest of the Rayleigh's site at Sunrise Boulevard in Douglas. And that is in relation to one of our other properties that you need to be aware of, that there is development scheduled, and Laura has worked with the city to get those plans. They're under review, and she is still looking to make comments on that design. Heron Landing Park, contractor is making final irrigation adjustments, and the project team agreed to delay seeding turf areas because of the high temperatures to ensure successful grass germination and establishment. Hydro seeding has taken place, and it is looking fantastic out there. If you have an opportunity just to drive by, you'll start seeing the little grass coming up. We are looking to do a grand opening mid-December. An email went out to the board suggesting a date of December 9th. And we're waiting to hear back from the board members as to whether or not that will work for them or not. So we'll go from there. Also, the Red Barn project. All contracted work is completed. A volunteer project to paint, or the volunteer project is a cleanup project, not a painting project, coming this Saturday. And basically, it is an opportunity for volunteer groups to come forward and help with some projects in dire need of repair out at the barn. And with that, I would like to give your attention to the special invitations coming up in October. We have, of course, the Mad Hatter Tea Party, October 7th, and the Halloween at Hagen, which is a very large event, October 28th. And if the board would like to participate in trunk or treat activity, you're free to do so. Just coordinate that through Jill, and that concludes my report.
Chair Lambeck, I believe that we have a comment from Manager Taylor on an item.
One minor correction, the volunteer effort. Very briefly, the volunteer effort for the Red Barn cleanup is actually September 30th, Saturday, September 30th. So not this weekend, but next week, the following.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on any of these items? Okay. Okay, Vice Chair Reyes.
I have some quick questions here, I hope. With the panel for the pool, I see it's going to be a 5-person selection panel. Is this a panel where we extended an invitation to the city of Rancho Cordova to participate with us? Is this the panel we're talking about?
Yeah, a formal invitation has gone out to the city manager to see if there was a staff member interested in joining us in the process from the beginning. So this panel, they were invited to partake in the review process of the applications we received for the RFQ, as well as give us some input as to the one we select. At this time, I'm still waiting for a response back from the city as to whether or not their participation is going to be active in this part of the process.
Okay, well, that's good. Just make sure there's formal invitation, so we are very, well, like we promised.
So
Okay.
there was a formal invitation extended in a letter specifically stating this is what they were invited to. And it was very clear that it was from the beginning of the process and not halfway through or down the road. So we invite their participation, and if and when they have an answer as to whether or not they want to participate in it, we would be open to that time and include them at that point.
Okay. The other thing is, I did not see any mention of Measure J planning, and I know that starting in January, we're going to be receiving some funds. So I didn't know if we've got some schedule going for the meetings, the PMRID team, officers and the meetings with us, so that we can work on a couple of things, which is the name change. I mean, we've got to establish that, and we've got to come on to that. And then we'd like to probably get a lot more educated and information on the process and, again, the budget that was set up with recommendation of staff. So I just wanted to make sure we were not forgetting that.
Yeah, we need to secure the dates for October, November, December for those community outreach meetings. And so an email will be going out soon to solidify those dates after we make the connections with the facilities available for that. And then also the name change is we got the suggestions from the board. We also had suggestions from the staff. We have that list, and so what we'll do is we will take that list, pare it down, and then send it out similar to the voting of the logo for the board to decide and staff to decide what would be the most appropriate name to name the Measure J funding. Now, in the research, it's important to note that we can still use Measure J as a descriptor of it. So it's not like if we didn't come up with an agreed upon name that we couldn't use Measure J. It just is a preference. So the urgency is not as urgent as one would think. It's just a tool for us to market it appropriately.
Okay, so probably the urgency is more scheduling our meetings with the PMRID so we can be ready for decision-making for the when the Measure J funds come. I noticed that you had the soccer tournament in Larchmont Community Park, and that went well, I guess. We didn't hear anything. I mean, Larchmont Park, the soccer tournaments, those were concerns. And so obviously, I'm just pleased to see that we did not get any concerns, did we? Or communication from them regarding traffic or
No,
parking?
in fact, we got a compliment about the fact that this was a highly impacted weekend, but the respectful nature to how they used the park and cleaned up after themselves was noted, and so it was a great success. The tournament leaders were very mindful of the fact that they needed to clean up after themselves. We had some very clear communication with what our expectations for use were, and it seemed to be fine. I don't recall any complaints whatsoever about that tournament.
No, and I think we would have heard it. So that's why I said if we didn't hear, it's no news is good news. Yeah, and then we do have that compliment, which is great. And so what we were working so hard on, which I know my directors and I were saying, it was really communication from Union Sacramento and the people and all this and us. And, I think at that point, we had not taken charge of our participation in it to bring and make things happen. So I'm thrilled we didn't have, it's going good.
We have amazing staff that are able to facilitate those expectations, and luckily our customers are open to that to make sure that they can continue to use that. So there's a very clear understanding that if the property was abused or used in an inappropriate way, the likelihood of them being able to use it in the future would be jeopardized, and that's a really important aspect of making sure that this is taken care of in the right way. So thanks to the Park Services staff for prepping it and making sure it was available for them and it was clean and they had enough garbage cans and the restrooms were cleaned the entire time. So hats off to the Park Services staff for providing that excellent customer service.
That's great. The last clarification I wanted to ask about was the Jackson Township development. Just wanted, it seems to be coming on up. It seems to be, I would love to get a handle of exactly what area, that is. I would also love to understand what is their time frame, and it includes abutting to our property, right, at the golf course? Does it go that far?
The Jackson Township does not. It's
Okay.
one over. It's the Jackson development, isn't it? There's two of them. There's Jackson Township, and then there's, well, Laura is better.
Yeah.
Gonna explain
Just
it
want to
to-
understand.
it's a little
This
confusing.
is county, right?
This is county,
Okay, so
yes.
this is county, not
Correct.
city. Okay.
Okay, so there's two big projects. One's called West Jackson Highway Development Plan, and that's mostly the Tykert property that is basically abutting the city of Sacramento city limits. And then directly east of that is the Jackson Township specific plan area, which is basically north of Jackson Highway. Is that answering your question?
So the West Jackson development is the one abutting to our golf course.
And that's the Tykert. That's the Tykert.
That is the Tykert piece,
Okay.
yes. And it's kind of a weird configuration of how they're plotting the development. But that's the one. Jackson Township is one over their neighbor.
And
Yeah.
the Jackson Township is residential
Yes.
development?
It's
How many?
It's a mix. There will be some commercial and business along Jackson Highway.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's definitely some higher density residential with apartments that are more over on the western side of that Jackson Township development.
And our interest in that is, do they have the same, how would you call this, agreement in providing park space? Is that what it is?
Yes, they have the same requirement under the county code. They have to
Quimby.
they have to provide 4.87 acres of Quimby Park land per 1,000 residents.
Okay.
And so, yes, they have a specific plan that we have reviewed and made comments on. So they know what they need to be providing to the district as part.
And how many residents or population, what's the expected population growth?
Okay, that
with
one I
that?
believe is right around just under 15,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
They have been active in negotiating with us. Out of all of the developers, they seem to be the most active in terms of their timeline in bringing forward the negotiations. And Laura and I have been working with Bob on those negotiations, and they will continue. So, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Are there any other directors that would like to ask questions or make comments here? Okay.
How many people, so we had 8 people submit RFPs or RFQs. How many, was that everyone or was there more? How many people actually toured the pool site?
So we did do tours. We had 3 options for those interested in applying for the RFQ. And out of the 8 applicants, we had 15 tour, is that correct? Was it 12 or 15? Or I could be off. I just know that there seemed to be someone at every
I
one.
believe it was 4 at the first one and 8 at the second. We gave them 4 different opportunities to come tour the site. So.
Yeah, and in doing these things in the past, 8 is a very high return. So I am really pleased with that return rate for this type of project. Especially, we were very strategic in putting it out as an RFQ instead of an RFP, and that sometimes will lend to more interest. So I think it's been a really good educational process. I believe it's the first time the district has tried it this way, and it may be a model for us going forward with large projects like this.
Any other questions or comments? I just had a brief one. Going back to the Larchmont Community Park and soccer, I know that we made agreements with them to reduce the number of teams playing and the number of weekends that they played and that sort of thing. But another question that came up at the time, I believe, was the cost per player, what we were getting in fees for use of those fields. And I'm just sort of curious, you know, at the time, I think we felt that it was quite low. And, you know, there would be a future opportunity to look at those fees, but I don't think they ever came back to us.
So that would have been for ongoing leagues. This was tournament, so it was like almost a rental. The fee schedule is proposed to come to the board in January. The staff is actually starting an undertaking of creating a fee schedule that will address that exact thing. In the fee schedule, we look to benchmark like agencies and their fees to see where we are in comparison in the market. And with that information, we will give you accurate fees to approve or debate. So that is actually something that we just literally have the template created, and the staff will be working on that project in the next coming months. As it relates to specifically per player fees, those are typically applied to when we are having them use our fields on a regular basis. We may ask that they have a per player fee in terms of how we're collecting our cost recovery for maintenance and having to demonstrate that. But without a fee schedule in place, it's very difficult to communicate the fairness of that. So it's something that will be included, for sure.
Chair Lineback, when you're done, I just have one question I have to ask.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to add that I think part of the concern was that the, is it the FC Union is essentially a for-profit athletic association, unlike, say, the Little Leagues, you know, and so, you know, the fees need to be established with that in mind. That's all I have to comment on that. Yes, Vice Chair.
I just wanted to ask, I'm sure, with the capital outlay expenditure report, there were just a couple of things that probably if you would define a little bit. I know at our meeting, at our Finance Committee meeting, we had two public sitting there, and there was a quick question from Lincoln Village, and their quick question was, where you put the Measure J funds for 2 replacement drinking fountains? The question is, maybe it would help if we were to be able to say where or what. I mean, it's in our budget, right? So the question is, where are these? Is it, so I don't know if they got an answer.
Do you wanted a little more detail on this report, or you just have a question about that one item?
I just had a question on that one item, because if you look at the rest, it says Hagen, Mather, and so I think that's good. And the question, I guess, is it in Lincoln Village? Is it where? Okay,
Laura and I just spoke about this. I've spoken to my staff who have a lot of history of the park system. What disturbed me quite a bit last year was there's somebody who came by with his dog, and it was a hot day, and a lot of kids were out there with little bottles of water by the playground. And he had asked, where's the nearest water fountain so he can get water for his dog? And I looked around, I says, by the play? No, there's not one by the playground. I said, there's none by the building. The only place we have a water fountain in our second largest park that's open today is by the baseball field.
Ooh.
And so I found out through history, there used to be a restroom there in Lincoln Village before it was burned down. And there was a water fountain right there, right near the playground area. And there was also a water fountain right behind the metal fence behind the senior center. And so we had the hookups there. That's what we're thinking about, hooking up the water fountains to make it more accessible for the public.
Thank you.
All right.
It's Lincoln Village, okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's all. Yes, that's why it was interesting to see. That was good.
Okay, so at this time, we'll move on to J, the informational items.
Thank you, Chair Lineback. Item J1 is correspondence articles, public outreach. We have one letter. I submitted the commissioner nomination for Secretary Yearwood for LAFCO. We have one article, one customer comment, one e-blast from a community partner, one of our email blasts, 6 design work pieces, and the Senior Center newsletter.
Okay,
It's all
seeing
included.
no comments coming through, we will move on to item K, future agenda items.
Thank you. Item K1 is regarding the regular board meeting for October 18th. We have a park use agreement for the holiday tree lighting, and a little change is that the presentation by the Park Services Department will be done in November instead of October. And then for the calendar you have before you, I just wanted to note that Administrator Larkin and myself will be attending the CSDA conference for most of next week, along with Chair Lineback and Director Sloan.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add a little bit to that as well? So this is the season of training. And so we also have representation going to the NRPA conference this year. Jill will be attending on behalf of the district, as well as Heather, which is a fantastic opportunity for them to get some information and national best practices and bring them back to us. And then we also have, I believe Andrea is going on a training related to CalPERS at the end of October. Matt will be doing amazing webinars related to finance. And I believe, Jerry, you have one coming up in October as well. What again is the name of that one?
Professional Grounds Management Society. It's the national convention. We have several thousand show up for that. It's the largest landscape equipment expo in the world.
So we should get some good knowledge in October. We'll be smarter in November. Yeah, big mowers, yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are no closed sessions, so we are going to move to adjourn at 8:03 p.m.
Development.
Um,
Business. That
Ace?
we have they okay that one.
Will continue.
Accused.
$15. Especially an RFQ. I think maybe a
Just had a agreements. And another question. You know, but I don't.
um, to see it to approve in terms of how so
See. Um,
Probably right?
a little.
The
Spoke So by through metal to make it more
Do it.
Correspondence letter number 18. Park use next week.
representation. We also have at the the name of that.
uh,
So
Jackson. And made
Negotiating. Will continue.
So we had
So we did do that, correct? Project RFP process, I believe.
Agreements To approve template create to base of that. yes.
This last year, I said, by the part, down through the public.
We have next week.
Called population
And Is that correct? I believe.
Agreements
We in